Hello, Tampa Bay fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show, your online radio home for Tampa Bay sports talk and Rays postgame shows. Stay tuned throughout baseball season for live coverage after most Rays games with comprehensive coverage of all 162 games from April through October. Got something to say? We'd love to hear it. Give us a call, internationally toll-free. 877-566-1020 or send us a tweet at WHBC Official. Don't go anywhere. Tonight's program will be starting in just a couple of minutes.
HBC. The Rays have lost their fifth straight, including 3 in extra innings, and have lost their spot at the top of the American League East. It is a good evening to you and how you be. William Haynes here, you there, here at 1:34 on this very early Sunday morning. This Rays postgame edition of the William Haynes Show is live from the WHBC studio in Clearwater, Florida. Number to call the show, 877-566-1020. You can also send us your thoughts. Drop us a line on Twitter at WHBC Official. Read your thoughts on the air. Respond to any thoughts, questions, concerns you may have. Of course, the news is not very good. A 6-5 loss to the Mariners in extras, and they have now lost this series, have lost the first 3 games of this best of 4. Of course, you'll know because Bally Sports Sun will not let you forget it, that the Rays are now 3-12 in Seattle since 2016, so it definitely has been a house of horrors for Tampa Bay, really for most of the franchise history, but especially as of late in this modern era of Tampa Bay baseball. It just appears to be a place that they cannot win a game. You probably will also know that we were not on the air yesterday, and that was just because how much really was there to discuss in that 5-1 loss where Michael Wacha allowed 11 hits, 5 runs on 3 2/3 as the Rays seemed determined to get him stretched back out and I suppose take Tyler Glasnow's spot in the starting rotation, and it obviously now nobody's really too enthused about that, and I certainly can't blame you with that thought process. But tonight's 6-5 loss in extras. The Rays also are now 3-7 in extra innings and are now 8-13 in one-run games. It's hard to believe Seattle, a team that's only a game above 500 now, they are now 16-7 in one-run games. And in extras, they are 7-1. So you look at the Rays, a team that is still, even with the 5-game losing streak, is still 14 games over 500. And as I said, for the first time in quite a while, they no longer sit atop the American League East. That would be our beloved Boston Red Sox, who, with a win in Kansas City earlier this evening, are now a half game above the Rays in the American League East standings. And, of course, those two clubs will meet in a best-of-3 at Tropicana Field Tuesday through Thursday, and I'll be at a couple of those games. And I think right now, with how this team has looked in Seattle, that's where most Rays fans have turned their attention to. And let's just cut our losses maybe tomorrow to avoid a 4-game sweep and avoid a 6th straight loss. And looking at the main takeaways from tonight, Josh Fleming getting the start. He goes 6 1/3, 7 hits, 5 runs. Did not look spectacular, but as Fleming is always able to do, kind of like at sometimes a better version of Ryan Yarbrough, is going to give up his fair amount of hits, does not throw any incredible velocity or stuff, but is a difficult pitcher to square up. And I think for most of the game, the Mariners weren't even really squaring him up. Of course, there was the grand slam in the second by J.P. Crawford, who has been absolutely owning the Rays during this series. But if Fleming could have had that pitch back, things probably go a little bit different. Heck, maybe he goes 7 innings of just a run, and things are a lot different. So I don't have any major things against Fleming. It's interesting. You look at, since Tyler Glasnow went down on June the 14th against the White Sox, that was it seems like a long time ago. That was Monday. So we've been playing quite a while, and of course the Rays have yet to win a game after Tyler Glasnow goes down. But the point I'm making is the game after, McClanahan 7 hits on 5 runs, Yarbrough 10 hits, 7 runs, Rich Hill 6 hits, 4 runs, Walker yesterday 5 runs, 11 hits, and then here tonight Fleming 5 runs, 7 hits. So that you want to maybe get on and complain about Fleming. None of the starting pitchers have been good this turn through the rotation, and hopefully they'll be better next time through, but there's not a whole lot to like about them. Thankfully, the bullpen is still looking very sharp. Very excited to watch Drew Rasmussen tonight, as he made his Rays debut, and a guy that the Rays drafted a few years ago, and he decided not to sign with the team, finally makes his way over to Tampa Bay in a trade when, of course, the Rays sent Willie Adames to the Brewers in return for Fire Eisen and Drew Rasmussen. Rasmussen was terrific in AAA Durham since coming over in the trade. In his 8 games in Durham, he had pitched 11 and 2/3 scoreless innings, striking out 23 and walking only 2, and that, of course, held through in Seattle tonight. An inning and 2/3, so 5 outs. Perfect. 4 of them. 4 of the 5 outs were via the strikeout. 98, 99 on the fastball, and then had a really nice slider at about 86, 87 that could really move either way. Top of the zone, bottom of the zone, whatever he wanted to put it, and was looking really sharp against the Mariners tonight. Matt Whistler got himself into a little bit of trouble there in the 9th inning. Had the go-ahead run just 90 feet away with 2 outs, but was able to get out of that. And with the Rays going to extra innings, it was J.P. Fire Eisen coming on. I stand by, and I mentioned this in the Rays Discord server when it was happening live, that should have been Ryan Thompson in that spot, assuming he's healthy, which he probably is. Did not pitch last night, pitched the day before, just an inning of work. Thompson by far has been the best Rays reliever with men on base, has been a terrific guy with inherited base runners especially. Not so much good getting out of his own jams, but getting other pitchers out of jams. Has garnered the moniker of the fireman, of course, for putting out the fires, the proverbial phrase. So I stand by that. Should have been Thompson in the 10th, but the Rays didn't score a single run in the top of the 10th, which has continued to be a problem. Was very reminiscent of that extra inning loss in Chicago on Wednesday, and not much else has changed, just poor situational baseball. It seems like the Rays, it clicks sometimes, then at other situations it's leaving a lot to be desired. I mean, they were playing some small ball in the 2nd inning, a leadoff single for Meadows, and then a double by Joey Wendell, his 19th of the year, to make it actually to drive in Meadows, but that had Wendell at second. Then a Taylor Walls bunt with 1 out, Wendell at second, perfect bunt, ends up going for a single. And then Mike Zunino, who is pretty much home run or strikeout, ends up getting a sac fly, and he gets a hold of a long ball later in the game in his next at-bat in the 5th. So they played some situational baseball there in the 2nd. A couple days ago, they were playing some small ball at times, just putting the ball in play, going the opposite way with 2 strikes, that kind of thing, with men in scoring position, whatever. And they had it going in early, and for whatever reason, in the 10th, 11th, 12th inning, whatever, you give the Rays a man at second base and no outs, and they just have a really hard time bringing them in, let alone even moving them over at all. I think a lot of frustration, deservedly so, for Kevin Kiermaier, who led off that 10th inning, the 9-man in the lineup. and just flies out to left on the first pitch that he saw. Was really just working sporadic, frantic at-bats all night. And he seems to be in this kind of stretch right now where he really just wants to swing at everything. We talk about it when it's going well. We call it hacking and slashing, doubles down the line, singles to true center, that kind of stuff, and that's when he's at his best. But kind of a worse version of Manuel Margot, Manny, a guy that we always talk about that can get any pitch. Kiermaier can make contact off of about any pitch, but he's not going to get a base hit off of it. Just a lot of weak grounders into the infield. And then, of course, that weak fly out to left, that was not enough to move Zunino from second to third. And that was pretty much it. But it's not all on him, of course, the 9-man in the lineup. Well, what does the 1 and 2 hitters do? Randy Arozarena grounds out to short to cap off an 0 for 5 on the night. And then Ji-Man Choi, who has been really, really clutch, really this entire season for the Rays. And, of course, he's only played, I believe, 20-so games. But flew out to center to cap off an 0 for 5 night as well. So the Rays getting absolutely nothing out of the top of their order, which, of course, is a shame to see. When they win, we talk about it, they can win in different ways, but the top of your order should probably not be going 0 for 14. That's Arozarena, Choi, and Diaz. Those are the kind of breadwinner guys that are supposed to kind of be getting it done. And everyone is going to have off nights, but Randy Arozarena, after his 12-game hitting streak was snapped yesterday, he is 0 for his last 11. So that's not very good. 0 for his last 9, I should say. But it looked really bad at the plate today. 0 for 5, 3 strikeouts. And you look at the last 2 games specifically, as you see Kikuchi goes 7 innings of just 1 run allowed, and the Mariners starter tonight 5 2/3 of 4 runs, but was really cruising there for a good amount, at least through 4, I would say, allowing just a couple of runs, and the lineup leaving a lot to be desired. They've also been poor with runners in scoring position, but less opportunities as well. Game 1, they go 2 for 6, which is not bad. Of course, yesterday they go 0 for 4, and then tonight with runners in scoring position, it was a 1 for 4. So not getting as many opportunities. They only walked 0 times. They didn't work a single walk, and that was a part of the problem in last night as well. Just working terrible at bats with a blink of an eye. Pretty much every hitter is down 0-2, and they're striking out whatever. They strike out 11 times tonight as they continue to lead the majors in that category. And the long ball really was their savior, and it was the only reason why this game even went to extras. They had that 2-run second inning that I talked about. And then outside of that, the rest of the 3 runs, a solo home run by Zunino in the 5th, a solo blast by Margot in the 6th, and a very clutch, mind you, with 2 outs, bases empty, pinch hit home run for Brandon Lau in the 9th. And so, of course, it's no surprise that they weren't able to bring the runner in from second in the 10th, because the only runs that had even brought them there was just the long balls, and something that the Rays, I think, have been a bit over-reliant on in times. They've been great in games where they hit home runs, especially multiple homers. You talk about how baseball, how it can change so much. It seems like when the Rays were really doing well, and keep in mind, they had a fantastic month. They're having a bad week. Stuff like this is going to happen, but you look at that stretch where they had won 16 of 17 games, and it seemed like even when the offense wasn't so good, the pitching was just enough to get the win. If they only scored 2 runs on that night, the pitching staff put out a shutout, or they only gave up 1 run. And then on nights where the pitching was bad, maybe they give up 5 or 6 runs. The offense puts up 7 or 8, so it was just the perfect combination. Well, now it's just the opposite. 5 runs for this team. They really should be cashing nights in like this for wins. But then on this night, then the pitching is not very good. But then there's times where the pitching it has been well on this stretch, not very often, mind you, and then the hitting really falls short. So until those things kind of get on the same page, this is going to continue. I think really for this entire week, the series next week against the Red Sox has kind of been a dark cloud hanging over, especially after the Glasnow injury. It's not going to be good if the standings change more drastically and the Rays could find themselves in a bit of a midsummer slump. Hopefully that will not be the case. What we're going to do now is take a short break. When we return, dive deeper into tonight's 6-5 loss to Seattle. Also would like to take some of your phone calls if any of you would like to make them. The number to call is 877-566-1020. Trying to, if it's possible, it seems like for me it never is, trying to make a short program tonight, as of course we're almost 2 a.m. on the East Coast and I've got work in just about 6.5 hours, so it's going to be a short night's sleep for me, that's for sure. But we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the Rays postgame on the William Haynes Show. We're live most nights within 15 minutes of the final out to break down everything that happened in that day's game and take listener phone calls to get your thoughts. As always, you call the show at 877-566-1020 or tweet the show at WHBC Official. Like you to remember that archives of previous shows can be found on this show's page on Speaker.com and also on the WHBC YouTube channel. We look forward to having some of you on the show. Thanks for calling in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 1:50 on this early Sunday morning, we return to this Rays postgame edition of the William Haynes Show, talking a fifth consecutive Rays loss, three of which come in walk-off fashion, and the Rays now fall a half game behind the Red Sox for first place in the American League East. By the way, a couple hours into this Sunday morning, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Of course, my dad being the number one dad. No offense to anyone else's out there. I'm just telling it how it is. So, Pops, if you're listening, happy Father's Day, of course. And I'll be seeing you soon in just a handful of hours while we are still trying to put a wrap on this program over the remainder of the show, hopefully within maybe 25-30 minutes. Call it a quickie show if that has ever been the case on this program. It doesn't seem like it, as I always tend to run out a little bit, but let's cut that in the bud. It's still to come, of course, the discussion at tonight's loss. We also have yesterday's loss to briefly discuss. Not much to go into, mainly Waka discussion, starting rotation stuff. The offense didn't really do anything. And then at the end of the show, we're going to preview tomorrow's game. It's a Sunday afternoon Father's Day finale in this best of four in Seattle. It'll be the lefty McClanahan against the lefty Marco Gonzalez in a battle of southpaws, and there is a decent amount of discussion to be had there as well. And also, if we got anyone that would like to make a phone call, preferably something quick, just a quick point so we can move things along, 877-566-1020 number to call. You can also send us your tweets at HBC Official. But tonight's 6-5 loss in extras drops the Rays to 14 games above 500. They are now 43-29 on the season, still a very respectable record. And what was once the best road record in the major leagues, it still may be at 24-15 away from home. And the Mariners, who came into this series, of course, a couple games under 500, are now a game over at 37-36, and have been quite good at home. They're 22-15 within the friendly confines of T-Mobile Park. This game in 3 hours and 2 minutes in front of a paid attendance, a series high of 14,772. For the victorious Mariners, it was 6 runs on 9 hits, no errors for them defensively, and for Tampa Bay, falling just a run short, 5 runs on 8 hits, a hit short also, and no errors defensively for them either. The one thing that has really stood through, they played a little bit sloppy in Chicago, but I think they brought some good defense with them to the Pacific Northwest and Seattle, and have been playing pretty efficiently. Of course, there was a play for Austin Meadows that he would like to have back. It was a double for, if I can find it, where it just went off kind of the heel of the glove. He had to kind of go run towards the wall and make an over-the-shoulder grab, or at least an attempt at it, and did not look very good doing it. I can't find. It was the Moore double that came in the 4th inning. So sorry it took so long to get that. But outside of that, the defense has been pretty good really this entire series. I mean, Randy has made a couple of run-saving plays over there and left. The infield has been terrific in cashing out ground balls for outs, especially with all the ground ball pitchers really that have been pitching this series, whether it's Hill, Waka, not so much, not really their fault, and then Josh Fleming here tonight. So that's at least good to see, and whenever this team comes off the schneid, potentially the defense will be there to work in the assist of that. The decisions for the pitchers tonight for the Mariners, Rafael Montero getting the win. He's now 4-2 with his scoreless inning in the 10th. Pitched pretty well. I mean, anytime you come in the 10th inning, runner at second, nobody out. Of course, the Rays and their fans are familiar that that's not quite an easy thing to do, but he made it look fairly easy, retiring Kiermaier, Arozarena, and Choi in the 10th, and then getting the loss for Tampa Bay, not even getting a single out. Couldn't even get a single pitch past the Mariner Haniger. It was JP Fireeyes, and his loss now drops him to 3-3 on the season. He's 3-1 since coming to Tampa Bay from Milwaukee. And just on the first pitch, a fastball over the middle of the plate. Mitch Haniger slapped it into left. Meadows tried to get a good throw home, but it wasn't his fault, but it wasn't enough. And the Mariners walk it off for their 3rd win in the series. The starting lineup for Tampa Bay, defense first. In the outfield from left to right, it was Austin Meadows in left, Kevin Kiermaier in center, Manuel Margot in right, and then in the infield from third to first, Yandy Diaz at third base. Was Taylor Walls at shortstop, Joey Wendell playing his first game of the year at second base, J-Man Choi at first, Mike Zunino did the catching, and the designated hitter was Randy Arozarena. A bit of a shakeup with the roster, as for the second time this week, Michael Brasso was optioned to AAA Durham, and they bring up the right-handed pitcher Drew Rasmussen. I think some have been speculating that Rasmussen could be inserted into the rotation. I don't see that being the case. He pitched an inning in 2/3 tonight, has been a starter in the past. This year in Milwaukee has been used as pretty much a 1 or 2 inning guy. You look at 2020 and it was pretty much the same, but I believe in the minor leagues and obviously in college was brought up as a starting pitcher. He had a perfect game in his freshman year at Oregon State. Was a nice little tidbit they threw in the broadcast tonight. But with Brasso being sent back down, which I think is the right move, the only reason they brought him back up was for a temporary need there defensively. Now they're left with a 3-man bench. You would say Phillips, the odd man out in the outfield, and the infield. I guess for sake of conversation, Yandy Diaz maybe or Walls, and then they have the second catcher there in Mejia for the 3-man bench. And so on a day where Brandon Lau gets the night off, as I think he will be doing more against right-handed pitching, and that's how Kevin Cash described it in his reasoning for making that decision. You're going to have to get a little creative with things. And Joey Wendell, who played second base mostly when he first came with the Rays in 2018, that was his primary position and really has been his whole career. Looked mighty fine over there for the first time this season, but has also been terrific at short and over at the hot corner at third base. And so pretty much what you would expect against right-handers, of course, with Brandon Lau being out of it. And then having both Randy and Margot in the lineup, I think, is maybe a bit surprising that they don't go Phillips over Margot. They ended up doing that in a pinch hit spot. That was maybe the only surprise, I would say. And then also maybe Zunino, but it was Mejia yesterday, so they kind of are going on a day off, day on rotation. The way that the lineup was ordered leading off was Arozarena, followed by Choi and Yandy Diaz. The cleanup hitter was Austin Meadows, followed by Margot and Wendell, and a 7-8-9 of Taylor Walls, Mike Zunino, and Kevin Kiermaier. Randy Arozarena, who had his 12-game hitting streak snapped yesterday, but was hot then. He's been since 0 for his last 9. I would consider maybe moving him back to the cleanup spot. They'll probably give him tomorrow against the lefty in the leadoff spot, I would imagine, and then if he puts up another rough day, then you would move him lower in the order and kind of go back to the way things were before Randy really heated up. You could try Yandy, Choi, Lau. They're especially if the losing streak continues, they're going to just shake things up like crazy to try and just get the team out of the slump. I don't really want to go one by one through the order because I don't think that's necessary. We mentioned it before, though, that the 1 through 3 hitters combined to go 0 for 14 with 7 strikeouts. So Randy 0 for 5, 3 Ks. Choi 0 for 5, 2 Ks. Yandy 0 for 4 with 2 Ks. Arozarena has, the 3 strikeouts, is not really much of a surprise. He's just really looked lost at the plate. The most conventional kind of slump that a hitter can be in. He's just taking fastballs for strikes early in counts or swinging through them, and then chasing off-speed stuff outside of the zone late in counts for strike 3. And that was pretty much the case for Randy, but also swung through some fastballs with 2 strikes, which is not very characteristic of him ultimately as a player, but when he's bad, he can't really even hit that. And the fastballs from Logan Gilbert were coming in at low 90s. 93, 94. Some movement on him, but he shouldn't have too much trouble squaring up that pitch middle on the plate. And then what's more surprising is Choi, 2 strikeouts, and he's one of the best at-bat workers in the lineup. And then a guy, maybe the only one better, is Yandy Diaz, who went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. He went 0 for 4 with a K last night. The game prior to that, he did have a home run and a walk, so it may be just a bad couple games for Yandy. But he looked very uncharacteristic, really just swinging at everything. And so that's something that's not good to see, is to see just hitters kind of regressing with the way in which they're working at bats, and even a guy like Yandy, if all of a sudden he's kind of lost his patience at the plate or whatever it is, he was just being worked over in at bats. I'll give the starters the last couple of days credit. And Yusei Kikuchi really set the tone for Seattle yesterday. And then you want to look where the runs were coming from, mainly from the middle and the bottom of the order, of course, as the top really provided nothing. Joey Wendell's got his average all the way back up to 293 thanks to a 3 for 4 night for him, adding his 19th double of the year. And then they had some hits towards the bottom. Walsey 1 for 3 and Zunino 1 for 3. Of course, the home run. Zunino, his solo blast to lead off the 5th, gave him his 14th. Margot's home run in the 6th gave him his 7th long ball. And then Brandon Lau, that pinch hit, clutch, 2 outs, bases empty, raised down to their final out of the game, down 5-4. And he hits his 13th home run of the year. And so that was good to see maybe him break out of a slump that he's been in. Someone's got to do it if the Rays are going to start winning some ball games. So the long ball has been the Rays have been over reliant on it. The Rays this season are 38-14 when hitting at least 1 home run, and when hitting 2 or more home runs in a game. The Rays are 16-4 this season. So which makes sense. I would imagine, the stats like that, obviously you're going to win a lot more games when you're hitting home runs, because of course it means that you're scoring more runs, period. But when teams do this, they tend to lose the ability to play some small ball to get men in scoring position and drive them in. The old adage, of course, you're familiar with it by now. And I'm not the only one belly aching about this stuff, but it's bothering me. It was what held really the only thing that held the race short in the postseason last year. So if that's going to be some kind of lingering effect, I mean, that's more of a big picture thing. And of course, the strikeouts are way too high. They lead the majors in punch outs. They struck out 11 times and did not walk once. And with 8 hits, that's a bit limited on base runners over the course of the night. And obviously they had to really rely on the home run ball. If it had not been for that, the Rays would have only had 2 runs on the night, and it would have been that small ball that they played in the second inning, and that really would have been it. So interesting when you look at things through that lens, and they go 1 for 4 on the night with runners in scoring position. But 3 of those 4 at-bats came in the 10th inning with the runner at second and nobody out. So they only had one. Through 9 innings of regulation, they only got a man to second base once, and it was Walls driving in Wendell at second base, I believe, and didn't even score him. It just moved him to third, and thankfully Zunino was able to drive him in with a sac fly. So. And that's really my point is that's when you're not looking good, and they had that same problem last night where it was just 1-2-3 inning after 1-2-3 inning. They maybe got a 2-out walk here and there, but ultimately not really doing anything with it. They went down an order in the 3rd, in the 7th, in the 8th, and of course in the 10th. So doing that awfully too much, and outside of the solo home runs, really didn't do anything. After that second inning, the only base runner that they had that wasn't a home run was a 2-out single to Wendell in the 4th and a 2-out single to Joey Wendell in the 6th. So he was the only one to do it twice, and of course he had the only multi-hit night on the night for the Rays, where he goes 3 for 4 and continues to be the best average hitter that the team has. By the way, Joey Wendell this season is hitting .331 against right-handers, which is 4th best in the majors against righties. So definitely got to keep him in the lineup, and most days you're playing a righty, and his defense has been terrific this year. Keep Wendell in the darn lineup. He came just a couple feet short of tying the game in the 9th inning, so almost had a 4 for 4 game with a game-tying home run. Just came just up a couple feet short, and thankfully Brandon Lau was able to get it done the very next at-bat, or else we're not even talking about the extras. And that's really it for the lineup, as again, we're not going to dive too deep here tonight at 2:04. Josh Fleming, the starting pitcher, 6 1/3. He goes 5 runs on 7 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. He threw 110 pitches, only 69 of which were for strikes. So about, 60-65% strike ratio, not probably good enough for him. He faced 28 men, threw first pitch strike to 18 of the 28, which I think on paper looks good, but really struggled to get a clean inning. And of course, that's where Fleming is at his best. He's working so quick, just about 10 seconds in between pitches. He's getting the ball and he's rolling it back out. And you can see hitters kind of get frustrated with that, and it's just pitches that they can't really do anything with, but the home plate umpire is calling strikes, so you get them to chase and that kind of stuff, and you can kind of get the hitters to play into your hands if you're Josh Fleming. Instead, the Mariners were really dictating the game to him most of the night, as he got beat around in the 2nd for 5 runs on 4 hits, and of course mainly the grand slam to J.P. Crawford, but they had a run that came across the score before that, a leadoff double to Kyle Seager. Got that inning off, started a leadoff walk in the 3rd that he had to work around, a leadoff double in the 4th that he had to work around. He had a couple, he had runners at the corner, or rather, runners at 1st and 2nd with 1 out in the 5th, and then capped basically his evening off with a 1-2-3 in the 6th, and got the first out of the 7th before being relieved for Drew Rasmussen. So, really, the base runners were too much. 9 total over 6 1/3, so that's not good. But as we pointed out earlier, every starter has been dealing with this. Whether we're talking about Yarbrough, Hill, McClanahan, Waka, especially, and here Fleming tonight. Those are the 5. So it's going to be tough. Really, logically speaking, the Glasnow injury has nothing to do with that, but it just seems like it's weighing down on this club right now, and maybe it's just being in Seattle, and maybe this would have been the case anyway without Tyler going down and him making all the news with the foreign substance sticky stuff. But the starting rotation is going to be a lot worse for wear without him being a part of it, because I'm not sure where you look to every 5th day to get some consistency. I mean, who in this rotation are you looking at and say, all right, when he's on the mound, we know for sure 100% he's going to keep the game close, not really allow any runs, and it should be an easy win even going into the game before the lineup cards are released. You don't have anyone like that right now. Yarbrough has come down to earth. Boy, has Rich Hill come down to earth, which you can't blame him, the 41-year-old, certainly the oldest pitcher going right now in the bigs. And then you've got just a couple of youngsters. Fleming, McClanahan is still very much finding his way with the growing pains, all that stuff. He, to me, does not look like a big league pitcher right now. I've long been contending he should go back to AAA, but he's ready enough, is probably what Eric Neander would say. And so he's up at the big league level right now. It's a conversation that we're going to continue to have, but is maybe better served for another day. But Luis Patino is ripe for the picking at Durham right now. Has been terrific, rehabbing that injury that he had, I believe, to the shoulder. I think he's better than maybe 2 or even 3 guys in this rotation right now, and is not with the 26-man roster. So that's a bit of a head scratcher. But for Fleming, had the bases loaded with 2 outs in the second. He gets J.P. Crawford out. Again, it's a whole nother ballgame. We're talking about maybe a 7-inning start of only just a run, potentially, depending on how things go. So that would have completely flipped the script. It was just one pitch that got away from him, and it wasn't, at least that I can recall, a terribly bad pitch. It only went 356 feet to right. It looked like it was going to be a double off the wall, off the bat, and it just kept going. It was one of those Yandy Diaz 2019-esque line drive homers that just kept going and going on a liner. It was just a sinker down and away. I mean, it was a well-placed pitch to the left-hander, down and in, and he got a ton of swing and miss. He was much better against lefties tonight than he was against righties. And that pitch was getting, like I said, swing and miss consistently. So J.P. Crawford is just on a tear, not just against the Rays this series, but he has been carrying Seattle, you would say, really for the entire month of June. So you run into a bit of a bad spot there, a little bit unlucky. To say that he would even want the pitch back, I don't think is necessarily true, because I really think he executed it, and sometimes guys are going to put good swings on it. We've seen it, like I said, this entire time through the rotation. Sliders outside the zone that hitters are going the other way for singles with. There's not a whole lot really that you can do about that. Because what are you going to do to start spiking pitches, and then you get into kind of that Blake Snell type situation where you're afraid of guys even making contact with the ball, and that is, I don't even want to go there. I hope and I pray that no Rays pitcher is going to fall under that spell, because I think that's even more damaging. So every time you get on the mound, you have to be confident about your stuff and just go out there, trust it, and whatever happens, happens. As long as you're executing your pitches at the end of the day, you just have to live with whatever happens. And I think for Fleming, that really is the case. And since coming over to Tampa Bay, I'm hoping I can pull this stat up quickly. I think in his first 11 appearances has a team record with wins, and his ERA has been really good as well. If I can, I guess they don't have career, but he went 5-0 last year. He's 6-4 this year, so he's 11-4 to start his career. 11-4 with a 3.05 earned run average in just under 90 innings pitched. So not a huge sample size, but 10 starts in 18 total appearances. Again, 11-4 record is terrific for Flem. And tonight was just one of those starts, a career high in pitches for sure, 110. I'm surprised he went that far. Not even just going into the 7th, but maybe even the 6th. But he pitched well and showed maybe that he can do it. So maybe with the bullpen fluctuating a bit, he's a guy that every 5th day maybe they could lean on for a little bit extra innings, because guys like Hill and McClanahan are no guarantee, and I don't think either of those guys are well served past a 4th or 5th inning. So someone is going to have to pick up that slack. And you're talking about a guy in Walker that might not be able to get out of the 4th or 5th himself. So that's putting a lot of pressure on guys like Yarbrough and Fleming. So the point I'm trying to make, a long-winded way of saying, don't be too hard on Flem's pitching tonight. I thought overall did a lot of things right, and he's more or less the same every time he takes to the mound, kind of like Yarbrough. It's just sometimes guys are going to beat him around with a bunch of hits, and sometimes they're going to look foolish against him, and it was a little bit of both tonight for Josh Fleming. Then coming out after he got the first out of the 7th, in comes Drew Rasmussen, making his way up from AAA Durham via the trade, of course, Adames to Milwaukee in exchange for Feyereisen and Rasmussen, two pitchers with a lot of potential. I think we're all kind of sold into thinking Feyereisen was maybe the prize jewel of that trade, if you can say one, with the two pitchers, assuming that they are not, created equal. As far as how effective they're going to be in a Rays uniform. Feyereisen, I guess, more of a proved commodity and more back end high leverage kind of save situation guy, and he's looked fine. Ends up taking a loss tonight. But Drew Rasmussen, I think, if anything, may have more high of a ceiling. Feyereisen, I think his performance is entirely dependent on how much of a feel he has for the breaking ball. There's times where he's looked like Colin McHugh this year, which is to say really, really good. A nasty slider and changeup that's unhittable when he can obviously control it and can execute it. But when he's not, he's relying on like a 93, 94 fastball. And like tonight, the first pitch to Haniger, middle, that's not good. But for Rasmussen, like I said, higher ceiling, a fastball up that plays 98, 99. He touched triple digits with a pitch tonight. And then a nasty 86, 87 slider that can really break both ways and can have it either up in the zone or down. Kind of like a traditional Nick Anderson guy. Fastballs up, sliders down, and it's hard to really touch any of his pitches. And proved as much. 5 outs, 4 strikeouts. 23 pitches, 18 for strikes. Any way you want to slice it, through first pitch strike to 3 of the 5 men that he faced. And he had about 30 friends and family out in the stands in T-Mobile Park tonight, as of course he grew up about 4 hours from Seattle in Spokane, Washington. Also hometown of one of my favorite Bolts, Tyler Johnson. And the Bolts are tied 2-2 with the Isles, but that's either near nor there. Rasmussen looked very good. And he was called up in exchange for Brasso going down, and I think that'll end up being the right move. And I look forward to seeing Rasmussen pitch a little bit more. Matt Whistler in the 9th. We got our first look as to maybe why he was designated for assignment in the first place, as he allowed a 1-out single to Jake Fraley. Righty on lefty, the 8-man, not horrible. He gets a second on a wild pitch. Gets to third on a ground out by Taylor Trammell, and runner at third with 2 outs, and J.P. Crawford, who has been killing the Rays this series, coming to the plate, and he's able to strike him out. We see it's not always a good thing to be over-reliant on that slider, and I think the Rays are actually trying to get him to use his fastball a little bit more to trust that pitch. And that's been a case really this whole series. You want to talk about Walker start last night, Flem and Whistler. The Mariners are just selling out on off-speed pitches, and it's been working. This is Seattle going into the series was hitting a league worst, major league worst, 212 as a team. And they have absolutely obliterated Rays pitching in this series. That has been probably the best pitching staff in the bigs. So two things that really don't make a whole lot of sense, but maybe a team coming in icy cold and a team at home that's red hot, and so maybe that's how you're able to flip the scripts a little bit. And then in the bottom of the 10th, Whistler just being a one-inning guy, so you got to make a move. I think it should have been Thompson. I'll stand by that. They go to JP, fine, J.P. Fire-Eisen in the 10th, but his first pitch, a fastball middle, to Mitch Haniger with the runner at second, which was going to be the go-ahead run. And I guess they didn't waste any time. At least they didn't play with us. We all figured they were probably going to walk it off, and like I said, they didn't spare a single second in doing so, singling off the very first pitch thrown by JP. So not a whole lot to go off of tonight. I mean, the one pitch. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything other than that. You want to start a guy off with a fastball. That situation is impossible for a reliever to be in. A runner at second base, no outs, and he's the walk-off run. I mean, really? Are we going to criticize the pitcher for that? If anything, maybe criticize who they put in, but who knows? Thompson could have done the same thing, but I doubt it. But even if you get to an 11th, it's not like the offense was going to score the runner from second base. So I guess maybe we should let that one go. So that's it. That's all I got to say really about tonight's loss. The long ball was in effect, but they're a little bit too reliant on extra base hits. They showed some small ball potential in the second, and really didn't have anything going outside of that. After that, rather, the final 8 innings of the game, just solo home runs, and that was the only reason they even got to the 10th. So they're going to have to do a lot of things better if they want to, score consistently and put themselves in chances to win ball games. And the bullpen was good as always, pretty much. And for Fleming, a little bit to be desired, but I think he executed most of the time. Some at-bats that got away from him against righties, but made up for it with his sinker ball down and in to lefties that got a ton of swing and miss. And then briefly, a discussion of last night's 5-1 loss to Seattle in Game 2 of the series. Michael Wacha getting the start. Really his first time getting pushed out. I mean, he had only thrown... he hadn't gone longer than 3 innings or longer than 50 pitches since coming off the injured list. What was it? I believe the beginning of May, like mid-May. I believe it was with the hamstring issue. And so I guess he was ready to get stretched out. The Rays just were looking for an opportunity, and with the injury of Glasnow, that opens the door. They said that they want Wacha to take his place in the rotation every 5th day, and in his first real legit start, goes 3 2/3, 5 runs on 11 hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 77 pitches, 55 for strikes. That's not the problem. Throwing strikes for Michael Wacha is never an issue, believe me. But he's throwing meatballs over the plate, and you're going up against a team that has been crushing you, and you get what you get. 11 hits. He couldn't even finish the 4th. I think the most frustrating, of course, was that 4-run first, where he allowed 6 hits, and the entire lineup, 1 through 9, came to bat in the first inning, which is, I don't even know how he got out of that. That's usually when a guy will get pulled, because you can't throw more than 30 or 40 pitches in an inning before blowing your arm out, especially for a guy like Wacha getting stretched out. A leadoff double to start the game, and then back-to-back singles, gets an out, and then 2 RBI singles to follow. Just couldn't get out of his whole way, really, the whole night. Allowed a run on 3 hits in the 3rd. But again, like I said, do you know how many hits that is? He got 11 outs in the game. Allowed 11 hits. For every out recorded, there was a base hit. And they weren't all singles, mind you. There was a couple doubles mixed in there as well. 1 for Crawford and 1 for France. So, he looked himself, and that's the unfortunate part, is he looked like Michael Wacha, and he just got obliterated. Fastball cutter over the plate with kind of that changeup down and away from righties, down and into lefties, depending on where he wants to put it. Even when he's throwing pitches out of the zone, he was getting hit around, but especially, throwing it was like low 90s, high 80s fastballs and stuff. Kind of like a worse version of Rich Hill, I suppose. And I don't want to dog the guy too much, because he could start his next time out and go 5 scoreless, and I wouldn't be too surprised. But not a guy that you feel comfortable at all about being a member of the starting rotation of a team making a run at the AL East. One of the toughest divisions maybe in sports. So I don't know. It should be Patino, I think. There's a lot of ways they could have played this, but they signed Waka in the offseason for a reason. There's stuff about him that they like and that they want to stick with. He has shown potential, 6 innings scoreless in the Bronx, and had another 5-inning scoreless start. So I think really that's the ceiling. But there's, of course, showcased by last night's start, a very long way to go to get back there. I don't know if the injury is still an issue. He has not really done much again since coming off there. And that was really it. I mean, Kittredge pitching an inning in the third and looked good. And then Colin McHugh, who, a guy also that I think had made a strong bid at getting added to the starting rotation, but I think the Rays saw more value in him as continuing to keep him as a swingman. Pitched 3 innings scoreless with 3 strikeouts. Was throwing nasty stuff. I mean, I don't think McHugh gets enough credit. It looks like he's throwing a wiffle ball out there, which is crazy late break and just buckling hitters. Pitches that are balls out of the hand and ended up curling back into the strike zone with some sharp break and just fooling hitters left and right. I mean, it was really terrific to watch him go to work. 34 pitches, 27 strikes for McHugh, finishing off the last 3 innings of the ball game. And even with a short start from Waka, they only have to cover 8 innings on the road, and McHugh's 3 innings went a long way for that. I would imagine they're going to keep him in tandem maybe for the next start or 2 for Waka in order to maybe keep the bullpen a little bit light for the rest of the guys in the rotation so they don't have to use them all up on Waka. And then on the other side, Yusei Kikuchi, who is having his best season as an American pitcher since coming over from Japan a couple years ago. 7 innings, 1 run on 4 hits. Did walk 3, and the Rays hitters were up in the count, it seemed like all night, and just couldn't get on base against him. They scored a run on 2 hits in the first, and you thought maybe things were going to change as they started the game with the lead. And then since then did nothing. A 1-out walk in the second, go down in order in the third, go down in order in the fourth, a 2-out single in the fifth they do nothing with, a 2-out walk in the sixth they do nothing with, and then a 1-out double in the seventh they do nothing with. So really not much of anything going against him, and that was it. I mean, it was 5-1 by then, as it was since the third inning, and it was clear the Rays were not going to win that game, and so you just cut your losses and move on to the next day, which ended up being a walk-off loss. So that's obviously a tough pill to swallow. And instead of taking a quick break, we're going to just go ahead and power through. I think we are going to get under the 1 hour mark. That is pretty cool. Tomorrow, the series finale in Seattle at 4:10 Eastern Time on this Father's Day. Battle of Southpaws between the lefty McClanahan and the lefty Marco Gonzalez. We'll start with the Rays' McClanahan. He's 2-2 on the season, is the 24-year-old left-hander with a .442 earned run average. His last time out on Tuesday against the White Sox, 5 innings, 3 runs, 2 earned on 7 hits, a home run, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. Threw the slider to my liking way too much for whatever reason. Did not want to go to the fastball. He had given up a couple of home runs off of it at the start prior to Washington. So what I'm hoping is he's going to find a happy medium here against Seattle, where he can get the mix that he really should have been having all along. Washington, too many fastballs. Chicago, too many sliders. Well, like I said, maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle and start cooking with something. Certainly you would hope. Interesting enough, in the month of May, the Rays won every game that he pitched in, which was 5 games. In the month of June, they have lost all 3 games that he's pitched in. So if decisions don't, obviously a lot of the games you don't get a decision if you don't go 5 or whatever. But that's still pretty indicative of his impact on the game. Like I said, it's still going through growing pains. I don't like a ton of his sequencing stuff. Day game after night game, they probably won't. But Shane McClanahan is in desperate need of Mike Zunino. I don't know why. Kevin Cash was a big league catcher. You would think if anyone, he would understand this. And maybe there's something I'm missing, of course, because you would think, like I said, he would get that. But he keeps pairing him with Mejia. Mejia, I don't know, maybe the sequencing is on his fault, or McClanahan for not shaking him off. But they're just not working good at bats together. bad counts, and he only really throws 2 main pitches anyway, with a changeup mixed in there as well, and can drop a good curveball. Don't know why he doesn't use that more, but the guy only uses the curveball 2% of the time. Glasnow has a changeup he barely uses. So does Rich Hill. That's just what he does. You don't really question that, but an over-reliance on one pitch for no matter who you are, no matter if you throw 99 or 86 like Rich Hill does, any reliance on one pitch, not going to work out. So that's the main key to the game to me for Shane McClanahan, and he'll be making his first career start against the Seattle Mariners. Going against the Rays for Seattle, it is the lefty Marco Gonzalez. The 29-year-old left-hander is 1-4 on the season with a .554 earned run average. So a guy that you think you could probably get some runs against. And the Rays have been pretty good their last time against left-handed pitching. Their last 13 times against lefty starters, the Rays are 10-3. So hope to get off the snide and keep that trend going at least. Gonzalez' last time out against the Minnesota Twins goes 5 innings, allowing 3 runs on 8 hits, a couple of homers allowed, a couple of walks, 5 strikeouts on 91 pitches thrown. Looking his best start of the season, maybe 7 innings, 1 run against the Dodgers, but I'm seeing a lot of 4 and 5 inning starts in as well. Looking at his last time out against Minnesota, just to get a quick scouting report on what he's throwing. Got a sinker ball, low 90s, cutter, mid 80s, and then a curveball at about 75. So kind of a 3-pitch mix. So sinker cutter action, so fastballs that aren't going to be moving straight, and then a traditional breaking ball, which is the curveball for him. So the Rays couldn't square up pitches that came in straight. I don't know how they're going to square up pitches that are dipping and diving, as Dave Wills likes to say, so that's a bit concerning. Gonzalez has been pitching for quite a bit since 2014. See in 2019 if he was going up against the Rays at all. He did get a start in August, and that was it. On August 9th, 2019 against the Rays at T-Mobile Park in Seattle. 6 1/3, 2 runs on 7 hits, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. Let's just see anyone that day that is still on the squad that may be hit against him. Choi was 0 for 1 as a pinch hitter. Zanino didn't get an at-bat, but it appeared. Meadows was 1 for 5 in that game. Kiermaier was 2 for 3. And that was it. Every time I do this, I'm reminded of how much this team has changed the last couple of years. Jalen Beeks started that game, and hopefully we'll be seeing him sometime soon. I think as early as next season with a Tommy John. But either way, and with a lefty, they're going to load up the righties again, I guess. Lau maybe getting another day on the bench. I don't know why Cash didn't pitch him today against the righty Gilbert. Anytime you get a day off against a righty is a bad sign. I don't know why I didn't notice that earlier. So, honestly, I have no idea what they're going to do, because what they did today didn't make a lot of sense. They didn't load the lefties against the righty, so to say that they're going to load the righties against the lefty, that's not guaranteed, so we'll just see. 4:10 first pitch on the East Coast, so that game will wrap at around 7:30 or so. I'm going to try my best to get a program there. Like I said, I got work in 6 hours, so it's going to be a long day for me. But maybe if I can catch the game, call it 11 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be on the air, not just to talk the game, wrap up the series, but a big 3-game set at the Trop coming next week against the Red Sox that we have to discuss in depth. And definitely stay tuned for that. If you're not already, make sure you're following us on Twitter at WHBC Stream. You can follow the show page on Spreaker.com where you're listening to the program right now to make sure you do not miss the show as soon as it goes live. You can catch it from start to finish. Thanks to everyone tuning in from the Rays Reddit page, the Rays Discord server. Thankful for all my good friends out there that continue to listen to the show. Like maybe to have some of you guys calling tomorrow, and of course next week against Boston. As always, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sports Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66. The Fan.
HBC.
W